He said that because of me.
Oh man! All right, so you guys
said it because
y'all guys about ready?
I'm ready.
Aye. Woo! Ha ha! Late ill kid at OneYoungsta, hold it down, bringing that street geek and nerd soul. What is up, my people? Today, coming with another wonderful episode of That's Right On Screen. I'm joined by some awesome people. We're about to talk some Lovecraft Country. Right over here, I have esteemed colleague. You may know him.
We already know. Minute into it.
Esteemed colleague, you may know him from such TV shows as ER, Chicago Fire. You also may know him in such classics as Night Court. I give to you Nate Miller.
Yes, thank you. Excited to be here. Moving on from my long legal entertainment television background.
I thought you were going to do that. I thought you were going to me.
Oh, no.
Too.
And down in the bottom square, you may know him as hero, patron saint, if you will, of all of America. Philanthropist, billionaire playboy, rebel, and all-around good guy. The name you know, Clement Bryant.
That was good.
So I'm gonna just go in and open it up. Big shout out to the chat. We got Cassandra Sellers, KB23. Good to see y'all here. I'm gonna just go and open it up. How y'all feeling about this episode?
I don't know how I'm feeling. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling what the F just happened. That's how I'm feeling about this episode of Lovecraft right now.
All right, Nate.
I would echo a lot of those things, but in general, I would say I loved it. I really I went back and I watched the first episode again, and also I was surprised at how much stuff I missed. But this episode, the pace was crazy fast, but I think they handled it really well and had a great emotional payoff. I am really, really enjoying this show.
Yeah, I'd agree. These episodes are dense. I'll give them that. They are dense because I've watched the first episode 3 times now, and this one I'm probably going to watch it again after the show and stuff because I got to watch it with Lisa. So this show's good, and I love how they handle. You never feel like a character shortchanged in this, and we're learning things on the go. There's never really a time, even when we're kind of getting a little exposition, we're moving while we're doing it. We're going somewhere. Right. We're accomplishing a goal, if you will. So, this between the effects, the boss up moment that we'll get into later, this show is really good.
It's fire.
Really good. I can't find a problem with it right now. I mean, of course, you can nitpick anything, but highly entertained.
Just to start there, since you said nitpick.
Yeah, go ahead.
King nitpick guy, and at one point when they're talking about the not remembering stuff, I'm thinking all right, that's kind of super convenient. They don't remember. He can't sit and talk it through with them, and he's the only one that doesn't remember. But then as it evolved and they were explaining what was happening, not only did it explain what happened, but it felt natural too. It wasn't just okay, by the way, here's an explanation for that thing that may have been kind of like a plot hole. It just kind of happened, and it was oh, okay, that totally makes sense.
And it definitely gave me a Get Out vibe too.
Yeah.
I was I think we should go.
And that's one of the things that honestly, for me, I am not a big horror guy, and by that I mean I don't watch scary movies at all because I am a baby and I get scared. I have a very active imagination and I get nightmares, and so I just don't do it. So when I went to see Get Out, that was a big thing for me because that movie, even for me, was a little. But I had to see it because of the racial commentary and the way that it kind of showed the parallels between horror and real life racism and stuff, and that was the thing that really blew me away with the first episode. And also with this episode, again, they knocked it out of the park of like, it's not beating over your head with like, oh, racism is bad, people back then used to hate black people. It's just like the characters are just real, and it creates this real sense of tension and also like drama. And yeah, it's just so well done. I can't sing its praises highly enough.
Yeah. And like, I think it's good that me and Nate met, because I'm the same person that Nate is. I don't really do horror. I can't do a lot of bloody stuff. My girlfriend is the person that forces me to go to the theaters to see the stuff, and I'm just like watching through my eyes like this all the damn time. So it's like, for me to watch this and also see something like Get Out or Us, it's big steps for me. So like, this is like that third step for me. But man, I'll say they had me at a lot of moments during this episode. I don't know if we're gonna get into spoilers at all a little bit.
Yeah. We're reviewing this and reacting to the different moments, the characters, and essentially like we've all saw it and we just hanging out and talking about it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely you can say whatever happened in the episode.
Yeah, but you know, when they opened up on the Jeffersons theme song, right? And I was like, why are they so damn happy? Why are they so happy? Like, they just ran from monsters. So then they go to the like, they don't remember. I'm like, oh, okay. So I know
makes sense.
It makes sense. It follows like a great plot line. It's not like, okay, did you remember 3 scenes ago where you lost memory? Now you got your memory back. Okay, it's like they're really working hard to fill the plot holes and make sure everything makes sense from start to finish. And I appreciate that. But that said, I gotta say, man, I didn't expect my man Fitz to come in from Scandal. I was like, wait, what? I was like, Fitz is back.
I was like, the president up in here?
I was like, living puppet. I was like, the president? Oh no, and he hate black people. I'm like, oh, I can't be. I got.
Oh, is that who the? I've never seen Scandal.
Oh, the main guy that cut his liver out or whatever.
Yeah.
He's the
Samuel Braithwaite.
Yeah, Samuel. One thing I did, and big shout out to the chat. We got VV in here, Jenna James in here, Moana McAdams. So good to see all you guys. Right here, I'd like to challenge what seems to be slight hateration in the chat. Good Samaritan says their characters aren't real at all. They don't have enough. They don't have feelings. They never act truly afraid when they're suffering violent racism, and they're not emotionally affected. I'd say that the breakdown that you saw at the end of this episode was the reaction to the totality of the racism that is basically experienced all day, every day. Black people can't cry 24/7. We can't.
Yeah, we can't.
So the basic everyday racism we go through, we just get through it. Yeah, honestly,
and
that's just how it has to be.
It's easy to look at it from our 2020 glasses now
and
see it a certain way. And where they are at that time in that place in the country living it, it's not like oh my God, they're so racist, I can't believe they said that, I'm terrified. Like, this is every day for them.
Yeah, it's like,
they know where they are.
Course.
That's what it is. And I also want to say that this comment is blatantly false, because in the first episode, at least for me being a black person, the most terrifying thing of that episode was not the 100-eyed Shoggoth beasts from Cthulhu. No, it was the get out of town. Get out of town before the sun goes down.
And you got like 10 minutes.
And then you can't speed, and he's following you. And then even if you do get out, there's a blockade, and then they're gonna just like, there's no getting away from that. You're just gonna get hung in the woods, and then you just like, if it's not a movie, if it's real life, you just die, and that's it, and no one comes to save you. That's terrifying, and that's real.
And I respectfully disagree with that comment, because when you're being chased, like I've been chased by racists. One of my girlfriends in high school,
and I have too.
Her father was a racist. He chased me out the house. So it's like, when you're running, it's like you might not be reacting in the same way that this comment is kind of conveying, but like when she's like, oh no, we got to get the F out of here, and she's running, they're like, oh no, that's a reaction. That's an emotional reaction. And even when in episode 1, where they're in the garage, or not the garage, the cabin, they're in the cabin with the other 2 cops, and he's like, you need to kill him. That's an emotional reaction too.
Yeah.
And I think all of this is happening, and I think there's a lot of kind of like, you know, inherited pain in this family. Which is why they're also used to it too.
For sure. Generational trauma. Yeah, and that's a major theme. I'm assuming is going to be for the whole series, because it was huge last episode, and also this episode is it's monumental. Like, they straight up address it in the conversation between the brothers. He's like, you know, Dad beat you and suppressed you and your emotions, and then the vicious cycle had you return that back onto Atticus. Like, wow, that's heavy.
Yeah, and it's
ancestor too, because we were like, is that his mom at the end of it? Me and my girlfriend were like, is that his mom? And then you're like, no, that's the ancestor that they were talking about at the beginning of the episode.
And speaking about that, remember, she escaped. She had that book. Where is that book?
Right. And that's
where is that book at?
And just one thing else I want to say is that's why a lot of people who watch, like right now, like people who are arson color, can't watch a lot of trauma porn, like, you know, the Ava DuVernay stuff. 12 Years a Slave, they can't watch it. So I think
I still haven't seen the Central Park 5 one. I can't.
I was able to get through it. It was rough, especially having a young boy right now. I still haven't watched 12 Years a Slave because I'm just like, nah. But I did want to, speaking about trauma, like baked in trauma, there's this moment where the young lady, I can't remember her name, but she's Samuel's, I guess, daughter. Christine. All right. So Christina or Christine, she's like, I couldn't work for this. No matter how hard I worked, I couldn't get this. And you have it because you were born. And I was like, are we going to skip over the fact that my ancestor was raped? Are we gonna skip over that?
Yeah.
Do you really want to go there with me? Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to play that game with oh, you were just born? Yeah, why? Oh, because my ancestor was raped by yours. If you don't get out of here, stop it. Stop it.
I mean, that KKK line that she dropped early on, she's like, we don't associate ourselves with KKK because they're too poor. I was like, oh, is that what we're doing right now?
Wow. It's like that the Dave Chappelle joke where he's like, the Dave Chappelle joke that was like, I'm talking about white people that have white people cutting their grass. Like, but
yeah, I mean that I don't know. I definitely could have done without that line. Like, I don't need clarification that we're separating them from the KKK, but it does make sense to me thematically, because that is very much true. Like, that is the biggest irony of the, you know, white supremacists, is that they ride so hard for all white people, but then, you know, the rich white people don't care about the poor white people. That's why there's poor white people. You know,
they're on that.
Yeah, they don't care about you, just like they don't care about us. So,
like, because you see they had old girl down there just like tending to the dungeon or whatever, but then even she kind of pulled her rank on, like, first she called it black bears, and then she was like the blacks, and I was like, but George was, once again, because people back then, George was smart enough to be like,
that whole speech was like,
it was like you trying real hard. She was trying real hard, but when she found out who they were rolling with, or the birthright or whatever, then she was like, oh, I. But it was just funny how she tried to pull up on him, and it was like,
all I'm saying is,
really?
I don't know about you guys, but I have definitely not heard that exact speech, but heard a speech like that, where I was like, okay, dude, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Uncle George was like, received. But I like how when they were walking away, they were like, you know your daddy in there, right? And they were like, yeah, I know my daddy in there. It's like, so the way you see these traps set up at every single level, even when they're walking back, you see the whole, you know, you see the Shogarth or whatever show back up, and Christine comes to, you know, hit her with the whistle once again. And smart thing that Atticus knew, he was like, hold up, you got the same type of whistle. You ain't fooling nobody. So it was cool to see that in their daily lives, they have consistent traps set up between average everyday racism, aka the lady at the stone, I don't know, watchtower or whatever. Then you have your, I don't know, Hasidic racism, where they're like doing magical tricks and making you see things, and
when he ran to the wall, I was like, what is happening, man?
And they were just watching it for watching it for entertainment. Like, oh, this is before dinner, our little, our feature of the evening. But it was cool that was like, Uncle George was like, this ain't real.
Bruh, that's some good writing, because it's easy to be like, all right, they're in this house and they're gonna get like messed with by like seeing this thing, and then it causes strife between them with like who they see, yada yada yada. But then to turn the whole thing around and be like, oh, by the way, this is happening as like entertainment for this lodge of like people with the meetings that we know is happening, like that's good writing. And I want to say, like, especially at the end,
it just goes to show how deep this stuff runs with them, like, because it goes so far as it can be just their entertainment, it can be their catharsis, it can be their emotion, whatever it needs to be for them, to the point where they're just watching. And then you can translate that to today. How many people, even though sometimes we need stuff to go viral to actually get mobilized action, to get people to listen, to get senators or whatever to actually get off their butts and do something, how many people are watching this stuff for fun? How many people are watching this stuff and enjoying it for another reason? For instance, the tape of Ahmaud Arbery, young brother out, getting his jog on. The way that was filmed, you can tell he was set up. The whole way he's filmed from behind, and filmed like the whole and then the video didn't come out until months later. So what were you doing with that video all this time? Did you just forget that you had it, or have you been watching it over and over like a snuff film that you enjoy? Like, so you can translate that to now, even seeing how, like, I'm pretty sure that same stuff is happening. I would not be surprised. And once again, to the comment from Good Samaritan, I could cry about it. I could be depressed about it, but I got to get up and keep moving. So I ain't got time. I can't.
And
I can't be killed by that.
When you talk about not having time, how many people this summer have just been killed alone by gun violence? Black people. Just like last night, tonight, there was someone in Wisconsin that got shot. So it's like, when you're talking about it, I think you're right on the money. And I think this is the thing that's like, we are always kind of dealing with this. Even in 2020, there are still sundown towns that are still, and so it's a real thing that we're doing. And so to his comment, it's kind of like, what all of us are going to do. What are we going to do? We're going to break down and cry. We're going to stay in our beds. We're going to stay in the car, just loop around the neighborhood. No, we're going to continue living our lives because we have no choice. But also, we ain't letting them hold that down, which goes to what his speech was. Remember Uncle George's speech, when they're coming out of their vision, the rooms after they had the vision, he's talking about that. I was like, that's what he's talking about, and that's exactly what he's hitting at.
Definitely. And that was a great moment too, because they all came out and knew each one of them had seen something. You know what I'm saying?
Lenny saw some shit. Sorry.
Yeah. But it's crazy. I was
like, what is that painting? I had to stop and go back and screenshot that.
They do a great job of, in this episode, of like, we're experiencing real things and we're watching real things. And it's like, hold on. Is this real? It's almost like, and this is not the same quality, but almost like, sort of like Nightmare on Elm Street, where they would conveniently shoot shots where it seems like a kid is awake and you're like, hold up. I think he's dreaming. like this kid he in trouble. That boy done fell asleep. So, seeing what they experienced was very interesting. Seeing how you had Uncle George with, I believe, Dora, and kind of like, I guess, having his last moment with her, even though the moment he turned around, and there's even a allegory or statement to say about this, he turned around and immediately said, this isn't real. but still took time to dance with her because of whatever his memory of her was and whatever that longing was. You know, even if I could have a fake version, at least let me hold on to that for 2 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And then of course, Atticus, it was a little bit tough. Homie almost got took out.
A little bit. Letty, man, the snake and the
and that's how they started it, because at first I was like, oh, okay, cool, this is real. And then I was like, no, something's not right. And then we flashed to the other, and I'm like, oh snap, they messing with
cool.
him. Yeah, the way they brought that on is it's really natural and subtle at the same time. Yeah.
Can we talk about? Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, you good.
No, I was gonna say when you were talking about just Uncle George and dancing with his long lost love, I really appreciated the kind of foreshadowing that they started at the beginning of the episode with him talking about, oh, wait, she told you about certain things, she never told me about this. And then they start to go, they bring that in, and it kind of plays out narratively. Well, I know we're gonna get to the end, but that emotional payoff and that foreshadow in one episode, I'm really, really impressed with. And just to go back to Dave's point, the writing is just, it's always on. And I find myself kind of wishing that I could write like that.
The pace, and just to sidetrack a little bit, like after watching, like when you watch a pilot, like you have a rough idea of what the show is, but you don't really get to understand until you watch the second episode, so that you have kind of 2 episodes to compare from, and then of course the show can change, but then at least you have some good idea. So after watching the second episode, this really feels to me like they have nailed the feeling of not just like a pulp novel, but like a pulp series. So each episode, at least so far, it feels like it's almost contained into its own pulp genre, book, whatever. So like the first one is pretty much just straight up Lovecraftian horror story, right? Where you go out at night and there's scary Lovecraft monsters and they try to kill you and you escape, right? And the parallel to that is the encounter with the cop, right? So the whole show is showing how this Lovecraftian horror fantasy stuff parallels, the real experience of racism and being oppressed and stuff like that. So now seeing the second episode, we get into this kind of it's that magical house trope, and like where that has traps and secrets, and now we have the wizards, and we have all this fantastical magic stuff, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is crazy, this is going to be a crazy show, this set up for all this stuff. And then the thing comes crashing down by the end of the episode. It's all like, but it's still self-contained really nice and neatly, and there are consequences that will carry on in the next episode, but more or less outside of that, it works as a really good self-contained story. If you just said these black people are being held captive at this house because he's searching for his dad, like that's all you really need to know to get in. Like of course you'd want more, but that is just such
enough on
writing.
Its own.
And it gets me so excited that each episode is almost going to be like its own movie. Like I feel very confident that there's not going to be an episode that feels like a filler episode, or like a like the way that some television seasons pan out. The way that they are telling the story so far, I'm so excited.
And speaking of the magical house, like you said, he comes in, he's like, oh, so Letty, like everything fits you perfectly. He's like, all the books you like and everything. And once he finds that secret passage, Uncle George, I was like, that's going to lead to something. Great thing, homie, is mad litigious, because he read them bylaws quick. He was like, paragraph subsection C says.
He was talking about the flex. That man got before like right into the dinner scene. He got up and he was just like going on. I was like, that is a flex. He was just going on. He was excited to be like, y'all, I can tell you all get the F out of here because my nephew was so like. I literally love that scene.
And I love that we get the payoff of seeing the liver cut out too, because when he went to grab, Tick was like, "Don't eat that. You don't want that. Don't eat that mess." Like,
so
and then of course that whole the whole kind of like sacrifice flesh of my flesh stuff, and just the weirdness of trying to recreate that is a whole nother issue. But yeah, man, this thing came out. He was like, look, I've read, I know what's up. And I know there's different levels of members. My nephew is another type of member.
Son among sons.
Oh man.
Like,
Order of the Ancient Dawn. I really liked the Prince Hall reference too. That was cool.
Yeah, that was tight.
Like a shout out.
Yeah. Yeah, and musical choices this episode. All slamming. Like all of them were on point.
Yo, like Marilyn Manson needle drop, I really wasn't expecting. Of all music, you choose Marilyn Manson for a show like this? Like,
I mean,
but it works. It works so well.
I know it was perfect. I'm just saying it's perfect, but I was like, I wouldn't have thought that they were gonna do Marilyn Manson. And I was like, man, this is really setting the stage for this scene really well.
Yeah. Okay, so one thing that I want to also add in is the interesting part of the sort of the dynamic of Tick's dad and how they relate. So they're like, cool, we got to save dad. The whole time, saving dad. Episode 1 and episode 2. Cool. Now we think we know where dad at. We look in there, ain't nobody in there. He done climbed out. Great. We see dad. The first thing he does is go to fussing. It's the first thing he does. And that's interesting and very telling of the relationship they have. Is not, thank God, how are you doing? Oh my God, I missed you. Come here. We got to get out of here. Anything like that. The first thing he does, immediately fussing at him, immediately shouting him down, and it's like, wow. And you see Tick turn into a boy again immediately. Mm-hmm. Like, he goes from this man that's been fighting monsters, like real monsters, and surviving all kinds of car chases and stuff, to like war and all that, to a kid immediately. And you know, even you see George try to step in, and you see this energy of just like how, like we were talking about generationally, it's just come down further and further. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy how immediate it was. Like we didn't slide into this. It was just immediately like, oh, so this is who his dad is. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it made sense. All the clues were there.
Well, yeah, but you just think, he finally climbed out the ground, got there.
It's and the Count of Monte Cristo.
I mean, I think the whole thing was, I think that's why you automatically gravitate to Uncle George. And also, you can't bring in a character like that in the pilot, because then it's going to be like, what is his deal? You know what I mean? But you have Uncle George, and I was talking about the emotional payoff. Uncle George, and I kind of picked this up in the first episode, like, I wonder if he's actually Tick's dad. And lo and behold, I was right.
Lo and behold, yep. We get that like, little piece to let us know,
he's that parental father figure that you want. And so by the end of this episode, we're gonna get into it. You're destroyed because you feel like he, for all intents and purposes.
Is that what we're saying? Is that Pop is the dad?
Yeah.
That Uncle George, I believe, is the real father.
Yeah, for Tick.
I think. Yeah, I thought it was alluded to, or at least, I mean, we know that his dad is not his real dad, but I didn't get that the brother was the dad.
I mean, I picked it up because I thought that the woman that he was dancing with was his mother.
Yeah. That's what I picked up on. Yeah. And I was wondering, because when you saw the vision, it wasn't Hippolyta. So I was like, And then they were talking about how they used to dream back in the day. Oh, we used to dream of a better life. And I was like, And
that's what I was getting at. The whole point of, my mom never told you anything. She never told me anything, but she told you something? That whole thing. And then you see that vision. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. And you get to the end, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like, so you get that kind of, that's why you had that emotional reaction to him in the car at the end of the episode.
And
I was
big
just
shouts
because
to...
I loved him. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Oh, I feel you. I loved him too. Big shouts to the chat. Boogsworthy said, once the dad emerges from the ground, you see a glimpse of why Tick left for the military. True. And then it's always good to see Michael K. I love Michael K. Once I saw his casting, I saw Vance and everything. I was like, yo, this is gonna be dope. And then also Kibi23 says, right, I want to know the backstory to that Maury Povich paternity test episode.
No,
I mean, I'm sure that's going to be a plot point coming up.
Yeah.
It's going to have to be.
That hasn't been laid to rest just because he's dead. I'm pretty sure.
No.
I'm pretty sure that hasn't been laid to rest.
They left the dangling after that scene between Montrose and Uncle George in the bedroom when he's laying on the bed about to die.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like laying in the bed, his blood is coming out, and it cuts, and the scene cuts, and you have no resolution to it. And then the next time you see them, they're in the car at the end of the episode. So that's going to be a big thing, especially as we kind of learn more about Montrose going into season episode 3, because I could see that being like a big thing for the next couple episodes.
But before we get too much into the end, there's a couple things earlier on in the episode I wrote down in my notes that I want to just bring up for us to talk about. So the first thing is the car being repaired. So obviously we find out that there is this cover up and that so did they use magic to just fix the car? But why tell them that there's blood in there? Also, the whole thing with William is super weird. I'm assuming he's not dead because why would he be dead? We didn't see him, of course.
Nah.
Him and then kill him off screen.
William and Christina or whoever.
Christina.
They're still really alive. They weren't able to fix that window overnight though, so that magic don't go everywhere. Right?
They ran out of magic glass.
That magic don't fix everything. They had the butler. They had the butler, wash up the front. So I mean,
good covering up.
They do what they can.
Yeah, the whole entrance to the house too was really cool. Seeing the painting.
Oh yeah,
and the well, how did he make his money? Oh, he
was in shipping.
He was in shipping.
When Letty said, she was like, that means slaves. Like, thank you.
So, and again, not to harp too much on that comment that guy that just doesn't get it. But this is another example of just because she said it kind of jokingly and we can kind of see it in tongue in cheek, that's a real life survival coping mechanism of living of the times of people who are racist talking about things that are blatantly racist and against human rights violations, but instead of saying what they are, they politely cover it up and put a nice word on it, and that's the reality of being Black Americans.
All right, for instance, these rich people, rich white people now that are like, oh, my grandfather or my great uncle, they were bootleggers. No, they were drug dealers. They were the drug dealers of the day. But
speak on it.
Guess what? We get to pretty it up with history. Isn't it nice? They were bootleggers. They went on adventures and ran from the cops.
Celebrate our history of moonshine.
Yeah, it's like no, they sold drugs of the day. That was the drugs. It was banned, was it not? Mm-hmm. People were going to jail for it, were they not? But now we sit back and say, oh, they were bootleggers. So this is the same thing. You're just using a interesting term to try to explain away that these guys were criminals. Your fortune wasn't built on anything grand or great or some humanitarian idea. You were criminals. And you were lucky enough to be able to pass this on to someone who could bring it up legitimately. That's how it went. You know what I'm saying? Don't be coming with shipping. Shipping. he was very kind to his workers.
Yeah,
workers?
We know what that means.
Yeah.
Did they have a W-2? Come on, man.
W-2.
W-2.
Get out of here.
Crazy.
And then also the whole village thing, they just really brushed over that because she pulls one of those things out of the cow and they're all like, yay! And the farmer's like, is this your first time? And I'm like, what?
Right.
What?
The
Right.
only
Like,
thing
I was like,
What?
I was like, okay, she's gonna deliver the cow. Okay, I can't watch this. I can't watch this. But I'm like, I don't want to see this. Okay, put my head down, and then I'm peeking out my eyes like this, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I see this just join a monster. I was like, what? And also, I'm eating at the same time.
Oh
I'm,
no!
I'm like, I'm eating a Subway sandwich and some brown rice and white rice, and I'm eating at the same time. That I was just like, I'm done.
The only thing I can assume is that the town is under their spell and they're breeding these Shogarth or whatever. So they think it's a cow, but it's really a Shogarth or Shograth or whatever. And what they see is a cow, but what we see, I'm assuming, because that wasn't a cow that came out.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
That could be. I didn't think about that. Maybe I thought it was just like
but also, I feel like the villagers are in on it.
Yeah,
true.
Because like the dog lady knew that the dad was being kept in there, and knew that the black bears in the forest that they have to hide to keep the meat from are not really black bears. So I think the village is in on it.
All right, cool. There's something going on that.
It's just like they're like one of those remote villages where like they don't have phone lines. They're like 60 years in the past, essentially. No one leaves or comes to visit, so they just do whatever they want.
Yeah, they were that cow scene was very telling about whatever power or whatever spell they had over them. Because I was like, Oh, it was nice to see the lady that was talking about black bears get caught, because for all that, they're not really smart. You forgot how to count. You saw 2 people. Where's the third? You should have asked that.
Bingo.
Because when she was talking about that trash, I was like, where's Letty at? Even I was like, where's Letty?
Man. No, 2 things I want to talk about too is, one, I'm referring to Christina as Emma Frost from now on. Just like, just like Emma Frost.
Like young Emma.
Yeah, young Emma, cuckoo Emma. That's what I'm gonna call her. But anyways, that scene where they're on the bridge and the Marilyn Manson needle drop happens and Letty gets shot.
Yeah,
my heart sank. I and at the same time, Jurnee tweeted, "Oh, it's been real, y'all. Mr. Green is a savage," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yo, see, Jurnee a trip, man. Jurnee a trip. She thinks she's slick.
While you're watching the show.
Because that's what I do. I work in social media. That's what I do.
Jurnee slick. Jurnee slick with that.
Yeah, and then I tweeted. I was like, tweeted the De Niro gif. I was like, you good? But like, I
was worried until I remembered there was a shot in the Comic-Con footage that hadn't happened yet. I was like, she ain't dead. I was like, she ain't
no
dead.
way she dies.
I was like, she ain't dead. She good. Well, she ain't good, but she ain't dead.
No, but like, okay, yeah, she wasn't gonna die, but in the emotion of the scene and just the way that this episode was paced, and I was reading, it's like one thing's happening after the other. Yeah. I was like, is she gone? Is she gonna be some spirit that comes back? Did. What's about to happen here? And
you can't. I knew that she was gonna be fine.
I was just like,
KB23, you wrong.
I knew she was going to be fine only because, one, of the first episode, but also taking the time to have that scene. Like, if it was her and some other lover, some guy we hadn't interacted with, okay, maybe. But the fact that it was Atticus that she saw and he saw someone else, which creates this thing of like, now we know that not only do they have a history, but she has feelings for him.
Yeah.
Plus the whole thing with the snake and the Adam and Eve, like they wouldn't put that much effort into planting these story seeds now for her to just die. Like, I don't believe that. That's the only reason why I knew. Now the dad and the uncle, I was like, please don't kill them, which of course didn't.
Of course they did
help.
Should we get into George?
Before we get into the death of George, but on the topic, I just want to talk about his speech that he gave, like, after they left their like visions. And I didn't write the whole thing down, but the quotes I wrote down were just like, they want to terrorize us, make us scared. And it's incredible because he's talking about this very real experience to them that just happened in the context of the show.
Mm-hmm.
But also the speech can be applied to real life and
Yeah.
how interacting with racism and fear mongers of any type, misogynists, ableists, whatever, how the tactic of fear is to demoralize you. It's to
and
make
also
you
to make you think you're crazy. You know what I mean? Like make you think. Yeah.
Right. It's meant to cause you psychological trauma because that will then make it easier for you to be controlled or subjugated or whatever it is. So it's all intentional. And the perseverance and like the togetherness in the community, like that's what's so important. Yeah. And I just think it was, again, like getting these themes across and not having it be like, Sesame Street special, love everyone. Like it's really hard to do. It's very genuine and heartfelt, but it's not Disney preachy. Like
true.
I get where you're
really, really well done.
And also, I'm gonna say this, and but like it's interesting that we're getting that line during an election year.
I mean, nothing happens on accident.
Right.
Yeah, nothing happens on. Some things happen on accident, but not really accident.
Not really, but
that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother thing that we'll get into later. But
we can do that show. I'll do that show.
I'm down with that show. But
I'm ready for that. But like when that speech, I cried because that's something that the three of us can attest to. We've all, when I was 10 years old, the first word when I went into, was it 4th or 5th grade, I was called the N-word. The first day of class. So I'm like, and I remember that feeling of, wait, should I feel upset about this? Like, I didn't really feel upset. I was like, I got mad. And I got into the fight and I beat the kid down. But like, and it kind of really hit an emotional beat. And also, I really like how they kind of went back to the first episode. He dropped the old Letty F and Lewis line.
Yeah.
That was really cool. It was really
to kind of pump her up and give her some give her some inspiration, because you can see she was really shaken. And
I mean, you just saw a snake come out of a man's pants.
Well, also on top of that, being sort of attacked by someone that you're probably, I'd probably say safe to say in the context of the show, falling for. And then you have Tick, who was curled up behind the couch after having to kill some woman, maybe the woman that he called that's in South Korea. I don't know, but
it's the
whoever he had to kill.
I think is the name.
After having to kill her, or what he thought was having to kill her, being curled up behind the sofa, it's crazy. It's crazy just to see that he came out and he was that rock. Now, what would be interesting to me is, I don't think that Dad is going to be that rock, and it's going to be very interesting to see the difference in the emotional leadership from his perspective.
Because and that's why I think the death of George hits me so hard, because I'm kind of scared for Letty and Tick in the next couple episodes, because now they're not going to have George to be like that emotional rock for them. They're going to have Montrose. And Montrose is a whole different beast. And considering that, like you said, Mike, when the first thing you saw him in this episode was, he automatically started complaining where he didn't have the emotional sense of a father hasn't seen his son in 5 years would have.
Yeah.
So I worry about them after this now.
Yeah, and shouts to the chat. Tyler Bennett's up in here. What up, TB? You know what I'm saying? And then C and Zia's in here as well. Let's see. Zia says, the elites know what is going on behind the scenes of this country. I'll change this to the perspective of the show for a second. I don't think for any second that house tumbling to the ground is the end of whatever that order is.
No, they said that there's multiple around the country.
Yeah, and I guess what I mean by not the end is not the end for us seeing them. I don't think for a second we've finished dealing with the platinum-haired wizards. I don't think I think they'll be back. And I think they have a hand in a lot of what's going on to our adventurous trio.
Yeah, it's not the end. It's not the end. I'm expecting not to see them. Maybe not the next episode. After seeing did you guys see the promo for the next episode? I'm thinking maybe in episode 4 or 5 they'll come back, but like not this one. And I've heard episode 5 is going to be like a really important episode.
Okay.
When all the press screening started happening, when all the press people started seeing like all the episodes, so maybe they'll come back later on around that point, but I don't think the next episode is going to be like that.
Yeah, they made a point to like give us information about them. So the whole order itself, the fraternal order, is called the Order of Ancient Dawn, right?
Yeah.
And then this specific one that we saw is the Sons of Adam, which is that specific lodge. They didn't specify. I'll have to watch it again. Maybe I missed it. I'm unclear if Braithwaite was related just to that specific Sons of Adam lodge, or if he was involved in the founding of Ancient Dawn in general. I was
because I didn't catch that either.
Yeah, I need to watch it again because I was kind of unclear on that. But yeah, so Titus is a Sung Among Sons, which is like a super cool rank or something. And so it should be interesting to see him. They did reference that there are other lodges, and I'm sure that they will be aware that this happened, and will want to come after him or some other regard. But also now he's leveled up now, so
Yeah, he's leveled up. He got the ring. You know what I'm saying? And the ring has some kind of power. Plus, he got the glow because the electric went all through him, and he had the sunlight. And then when the electric stopped, he still had a little I don't know, electromagnetism on him. And he saw the vision of his ancestor, which I'm guessing we'll probably see again. Maybe being through this process has unlocked his ability to see. We'll see. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a whole bunch of supernatural stuff to go through. Speaking of supernatural, somebody dropped a comment earlier, Jenny James, talking about this show is like American Gods, American Horror Story, and Supernatural put into one.
I think so.
I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from with that.
I get that. And
I think this show is based on all of the stories that those shows are sourced from, basically.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have any of that stuff without the Lovecraftian horror, which kind of really started sci-fi, arguably, but really is a major part of it. And like that is why that you see a lot of similarities, because we're kind of going back to the roots of this kind of horror sci-fi genre and examining that.
Yeah. So so that's it, guys. We've been chilling long enough. We're almost at time. Are there any final ideas, notes, or hopes for the next couple of episodes, next episode, whatever?
I suspect there's a lot more to Tick's story because there's been a lot of stuff that they've been kind of glossing over. In episode 1, we didn't get too much background about what happened to him in the war. So I'm expecting, and with the Asian girl, I can't pronounce her name right, but I think there's going to be a lot more with Tick, and especially after seeing that whole scene that you're talking about, Mike, with the electricity, I think there's going to be a really important plotline with him coming up that I'm kind of like nervous for, to say the least.
The boy, when you got that glow, the boy, he about to level up.
Yeah, I'm really curious what's going to happen too. I mean, at least from the first and second episode, they've done a great job of answering a lot of questions while still leaving some things, in the dark to keep you interested. So I'm really hoping that they keep up that pace. The last thing I really want to say is, second to maybe like the Watchmen scene where Dr. Manhattan gets his powers, this sequence of like things happening and a guy getting superpowers, I'm assuming, we don't know what happens, but come on, he got superpowers. He's like crackling with lightning when the thing is over. That sequence was awesome. Like effects wise, it looks cool. And because then we start Whitey's with Whitey's on the moon.
Yes, we start with Whitey's on the moon.
What?
And then the whole
got hair on an HBO show.
The whole commentary of the process that you put in motion to subjugate someone else is your own undoing is all in that scene. Him probably receiving powers, I'm pretty sure. Plus the ring that I'm sure people see the ring, they probably gonna be like, oh snap, yo, that's real right there. And then also being able to see his ancestor probably more than just this once. I want to know where that book is. I want to know what's in that book. And I'm interested in an old girl in South Korea because he called her and she was like, I told you never to go back. And like before she could even get it all the way out, he hung up on her. Then he had to like fight her / kill her in his vision attack, I guess, from the wizards. I want to know more about what went on when he was away in the military. I don't think it was just a regular, like, hey, I'm going to serve. And, I shot some people and, I just, did some push-ups and came home. Like, I think something very, very supernatural happened to him over there.
I'm waiting.
That he's not talking about.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that reveal. I'm waiting for that reveal to happen.
Yeah, definitely. This show is hot. So, guys, with that said, holla at us. We'll holla at you down in the comments. Let's talk Lovecraft Country. It's awesome. Down in the bottom square, you know him. Purple Heart winning. Times Man of the Year. That's right. Clement Bryant. Say what's up.
I didn't win the Purple Heart. I'm not Times Man of the Year, but I would like to be for the networking purposes. But you can find me Twitter and Instagram at Clement Bryant. Talking social media, fitness, marketing, and general geekdom.
Cool. And right here, you know him. Films like Top Gun, TV shows like My Brother and Me, Nate Miller.
I'm gonna have to hang this up.
That's right. It is me, Tom Cruise, known from Top Gun. I'm Nate Miller. It's been awesome to be here. If you want to follow me, you can find me everywhere at Dog Like Nate. It's dog with 2 G's. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. I stream games sometimes, maybe, but
maybe
hit me up. Let's talk.
Word up. NERDSoul. SOUL. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube's the main hub. Hit that thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. Hit that thumbs down. But if you hit that thumbs down, put you down in that watchtower, boy. And you don't want that. Ain't nothing down there but alien babies and mean dogs. All right. So podcast wherever you want to hear them. Spotify Music. Check us out. Thank you to the chat. We got Boogsworthy, Kibi23, Jenna James, Zias. We had Hassan come through. Catherine B, Tyler Bennett, a whole bunch of people I'm probably forgetting. Cassandra VV came through. Moana McAdams. Good Samaritan. He dropped the controversy. Joseph Moore, Sabanor, all y'all guys. All y'all came through. Love y'all sunshiny faces. Thank you. And I'm gonna leave y'all with Arcatron. That's right, ARCKATRON.com. The Space Bridge is in stars now. Awesome music. From us to you, we're just saying peace.
Catch you next week.
Yeah.
'Hey, guys.
Here's the beat. All right. 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 All right